Watch this. Oh my. You just see that? A magician. That's incredible.
Okay, hello everyone. Thank you very much for joining me today. I appreciate it a lot. This is MoradSays podcast, show number 2. Today is Tuesday, the 21st of March 2017. I am your host, Murad Shahabi, the first man to ever land on the moon. I'm very sorry for being late getting this out. I have been busy in the last few days, as much as I hate to admit that. I hate to say that I'm busy because I always think that being busy is a function of prioritization and not a function of how much time you have. We all have time, we just have different priorities. And I'm getting this show as a priority. So thank you very much for listening. I appreciate it. As you know, 3 segments for the show. The first one is a quick look at the news, what happened in the last few days. Then the second segment is the main segment that has today's concept, which I hope you find intriguing. It's versatility in our brain. At the end, there is a teeny tiny additional segment to finish the show. Okay, I will try to keep track on the time, how much we are going. I hope it will not be too long. So without further ado, I will just jump into the news. I found 2 news to be very intriguing. I think the first one for almost sure you didn't hear about. It's someone called War Machine. He's one person, he's a fighter, and he had a girlfriend who is a porn star for some reason. So he figured out that she is cheating on him, so he beat her up very badly that she almost died, and now I think they are hopefully sending him to jail. What I find interesting is that the fighter, who has a porn star girlfriend, was angry that she is cheating on him. Okay, so just think about that. Think about his brain. He asked her out. She said yes. He's having a relationship with her. He knows that she's a porn star, but he's angry that she's cheating. She's sleeping with someone else. Go figure. The other way around, she's a porn star. Her boyfriend is called War Machine legally. He changed his name legally into War Machine. And he is trained in the art of destroying the human body, and she cheats on him. Again, just what I find really interesting is that we live in a world where some people have totally different logic, like a way of thinking and interacting that you would never think about. Just think about how things work for these people. The second highlight that I found interesting this week is the guy called Geert Welder. And I first came across him when I saw a video of him on Facebook being very aggressive against Muslims, and I knew that he's running for the elections in the Netherlands as the nominee of the right-wing party. In this case, I guess it's like really right-wing. And it seems that he's losing the elections, hopefully. And what I find interesting in the perception of people, there's 2 things. First is that collectively we swing right and left. Every few years, we as humanity swing rather to our conservative, old-fashioned concepts. And then a few years later, we swing to the left. We become a bit more open-minded. We tolerate more. We accept more. We I don't want to say we evolve or we advance a bit more morally and mentally. But we become a bit more open to new things. And then we swing again to the right and we try to find our old moral convention, and back and forth. And now we seem to be rather going in the direction of the right wing, in the more conservative time. And it's interesting who will win the election in what country and what consequences will we have to live with in the next few years, or in some cases few decades. I had some concerns because I don't think it is as funny as in the US. So Trump is a bit funny and he can say whatever he wants. He's still a bit funny. I think if the right wing wins in France, Netherlands, Germany, or Austria, that's a little bit more serious. And we can see also in Brexit, for example, I think we can take that more seriously. There are some other news that you might not find interesting. It is still fun if you want to know that honeybees can actually play football and score goals. Now you know. Spiders are the most dangerous predator on planet Earth. Also, now you know. It's not human. I always thought that humans are the most dangerous animals, but it seems that spiders are overtaking us. I also read recently that if the trend of extinction keeps going and also obesity, human will end up being the biggest animals on Earth. What does that mean? I'm not sure. It's just a scary thought. So let that sink in. Okay, without further ado, that was segment number 1. If you have any other news that you think is interesting, you can share it down in the comments. Thank you very much. A little tiny break, then we will jump into segments 2. See you soon. Welcome back to the second segment. Thank you for staying with me. In this segment, we will discuss the main topic of today, which is the brain and versatility. I do believe that the brain is the organ that controls everything about us. We can argue about that. You can think it's the heart or our blood controls everything, or everyone has an idea. I do believe I am biased to think that the brain is the master, one that rules them all. I study and work with the brain, but also I do believe that, as my friend says, if you have control over your mind and brain, everything else will most likely follow. If you have peace in your brain and your mind, you will have peace in your life, in your relationships. And if you have control over this organ, you have control over your past because you have your memories and how you reflect on them, over your present for sure, and also in your future because you will have a lot already under control. If you already know or don't know how our brain works, I want to focus on the economic theory of the brain. Our brains always work with the reward cost system. So anything you do in life, any task you want to do, has a cost and a reward. For example, if you are lying on your couch on the sofa and there is an apple, let's say like in the kitchen, which you can see. I can see my kitchen from here, so that's why I'm saying the apple in the kitchen. Your brain automatically calculate immediately, okay, the reward is the apple, I eat the apple, I enjoy it, I have the calories, and the cost is getting up, going to the kitchen, washing the apple and eating it. If the brain says, okay, the cost is too much, the apple is not worth it to stand up and spend all that effort to go, you will decide not to go get the apple, or maybe you can ask your mom or your wife or whatever to bring you the apple. Then the cost is limited and the reward is the same. So your brain is constantly trying to maximize every reward for everything you are doing and minimizing the cost. That's why we are constantly trying, for example, to save time or to save effort or to, as they say, like hunt, I don't know what you say it in English, I think it's like hit 2 birds with 1 rock. It's all about, okay, I'm throwing 1 rock, that's effort, cost, but getting 2 rewards, right? Maximize, I think it's called utility maximization or something like this. In any case, the point is that your brain is also always trying to limit the cost. And that's mostly by simplifying everything and automatizing everything around you, everything you do. I do believe, and maybe now I'm over-interpreting our behavior, but when you get up every day around 7:30, your brain goes, okay, let's just simplify this whole thing. I'm going to get up every day at 7:30. You don't even need an alarm because your brain always try to find a pattern, always try to find this routine to make everything you do a bit more faster and simpler. And that's why we grow up actually being taught that routine is the like enemy of creativity, and it's bad for us. I partially agree, partially disagree. I think routine saves us a lot of effort, a lot of cost, a lot of time, which we can use to focus on what we want to do during our day. So it gives you more tools. It cleans out your working memory so you can focus on what you want. And meanwhile, when you simplify or oversimplify everything, yes, it can happen that your brain loses the creativity, it loses the challenge, it loses the activity that it has. I prefer to use routine to my advantage, create a very clear system, very easy. Then my brain knows to do what when, and the rest is for me to utilize the way I want or I need. Anyhow, when oversimplification kicks in, which is always running in the background, we start to see some bad results. Like, for example, I do believe that most of sexism, racism, or any type of discrimination is a result of our brain trying to simplify the patterns around us, trying to simplify humans and animals and everything, and making them into groups. So you start to think, okay, I don't want to think about every single person I meet, if they are good or bad, or I know they have good quality in a certain thing or not. So I just try to make groups. So let's say snakes, scorpions, spiders, lions, cheetahs, and whatever dangerous animals. Cats, rabbits, some dogs, horses, not very dangerous, right? Let's say, if I can say this because I'm a Muslim and Arab, you look, okay, it's very oversimplification. All Arabs are dangerous, they can have bombs or whatever. All, I don't know, Asian people are bad drivers. This is your brain naturally trying to just gather people into groups that you can easily deal with, right? And you usually need a lot of effort and a lot of work to break this simplification and to keep your brain actively handling one task. Of course, you don't want to do this with every task that your brain is doing, otherwise, you will spend your day thinking about, for example, how you walk, how you breathe, how you eat, the way you are like carrying food to your mouth. So we are actually benefiting from simplification, but also we don't want to oversimplify everything, otherwise our brain gets lazy. And this takes us to the next point. Your brain is just like any muscle. If you don't use it actively, it does degenerate. It has atrophy, it gets smaller, weaker, and I will not say like it doesn't 100% disappear, but it's almost disappear. It's useless at the end. There is a minimum activity, of course, in our brains, so it doesn't reach this level, but it is actually a product of what you feed it. If you train a muscle every day, you go to the gym, you carry weights, after a while it becomes very easy for you to carry the weight and your muscle becomes stronger. Not just, it doesn't just become easy because the muscle gets stronger, but also because your brain figured out the easiest way to carry this weight. It's, for example, the degrees of freedom from your arm. Okay, instead of like carrying 60 degrees, let's just do 55 degrees rotation. Let's like use more the muscle from the chest or from the back. This will make it easier. So your brain is always constantly trying to find the easiest way to do anything. And here's the point, and why I introduce or suggest and love also in my day to add a lot of versatility to my brain, which is practically introducing as many new things to my brain, new domains, new patterns, new experiences, in a sense, to my brain, to always feed it new tools to work, new things to understand. Because the more things your brain understands and the more things your brain do well, the more you increase the overall quality of your brain, the overall strength of your brain. And the stronger your brain is, the stronger and the better the quality you can face life with. So, for example, let's say you are going to the gym every day, you carry a lot of weight. After 2 years, you have a really strong muscle that can carry a lot of weight. But does this muscle really have a higher quality facing motor tasks than other muscle, or than it was or used to be 2 years ago? Not necessarily, because what life will bring you is not always things that you can face with strength. What you need to do is train this muscle to be higher quality, which means you need today to go practice your strength. Tomorrow it's balance day. The day after you go practice, for example, locomotion or reflexes or flexibility. You introduce your brain to flexibility and you work on it for months or years, and then your muscle is flexible. Then your muscle has good reflexes, quick adaptive reflexes, or good recovery time. And then after years, this becomes easy to you. You compare it to how it was or used to be 2 years ago, and you say, yes, now my muscle has quality. And your brain is the same. If you are going to work, whatever this job is, and doing the same job for 10, 15 years, your brain is not necessarily being better brain. It's just being better at this job. If you are living in the same city for, let's say, 20, 30 years, 40 years, in the same job, same family, same neighbors, your brain already found the pattern and found the easiest way to handle these things. So after 40 years, it's not going to be a better brain. It's just going to be a more lazy, efficient, know how to do things brain. While what I believe we need to face life is a brain that is just superior to what I had 5 years ago. I want my brain to look at what I had 5 years ago and say that was so limited, was so one-dimensional. The first time I went to box. I love boxing. I box for years now. If you know or don't know, I know. But the very first time I went to box, other than training, I got hit in the face, and then I could just feel it okay, that's new. When I got out of the ring, I just felt okay. Everything that has been told, everything my brain was thinking and looking at my training, or the things I'm listening to my trainer, or watching fights or fighting, it's completely different. And only fighting introduced my brain to a totally different domain that I felt that I never saw before. It's like looking at a movie that's in white and black. And once you open a new domain, you see colors. And when you see colors, then your brain starts to absorb them and judge the universe in totally different standards, totally different way. Art becomes different to you. Beauty becomes different to you. And it's the same. I got hit in the face, and then I said, okay, wait, there is a different perception of strength, for example, different perception of distance, reflexes, speed, movement. All these things suddenly hit my face as new tools that I didn't think about before. And I believe that my brain would have never thought about them or tried to find patterns or tried to learn them unless I introduced my brain to a totally different domain that I had nothing to do with, which is boxing. Similarly, for example, with people who speak 5, 6, 7 languages, every time you learn a new language, if, for example, let's say you're learning German, German is so different than English or than Arabic, for example, my native language, is that when you start to learn German, your brain goes, okay, that's completely different logic and grammar. And if you also do your homework and try to connect language to the cultural, to topography, to the nature of people and how they interact, you can say okay, this is my brain just open to a completely different dimension. It's like I now have one more extra brain because my brain now can learn the German logic and can think of German. My brain now can learn to speak French. I don't speak French, but people who do speak French, there are studies that show that there is personality changes with language. If you speak French, your personality is different when you speak English or German or Arabic, and you are the same person. But as you see, it's because your brain can shift from, okay, now I am in my French mind, and then you can just switch completely to your German mind. And I believe it's the same. You can have a brain that is in chess, for example. If you talk to someone who is good at chess, you can see that their brain is following chess processing of thinking. It's very direct. It's very very clear decision making. This leads to this. I do this. You do that. Action has reaction. Strategically organized. Very clear to what they want to do and what they don't want to do. If then you want to have something different, you can jump with your brain, for example, to something more artistic. Go learn, for example, how to play music, how to act, for example. Why? Because if you adapt your brain to something that's very logical, like let's say decision making and playing chess, or if you are a programmer or an engineer who spends his time thinking about coding, this leads to this needs to have a loop to work, or this condition, I'm going to use this function. There's a very clear line of thinking. Then you jump to a completely different domain with your brain, which needs rather to be creative, out of the box, rather expressive or metaphoric, or less direct. This will not just only be fun to your brain to do nice exercise, but it will just completely shift your brain from one style of working, from one you to the other you. And after 4, 5, 6 years, you will have a brain that can just shift suddenly from being okay in chess, suddenly okay, now I want to play music. Okay, no, actually now I need to box, I need to fight. So I need to put my brain, or to use the brain that knows how to fight and what it needs to survive in fighting. Or now I need to speak Korean, so now I need to think more or less in my Korean brain that knows some Korean traditions or how to survive in Korea. If you are treating your brain in this way for many years, you will have a brain that has the quality to survive, I believe, in any circumstances, a brain that can adapt very quickly. I think it's Freud or Darwin who said, one of the two, I'm not sure, who said, it's not the strongest animal that survives, it's the one who's most capable to adapt, or the one who adapts the most. The quote is something like this, not 100% accurate, you can look it up. And I think our adaptability comes from our exposure to more different domains, to more tools we give to our brain to work with, to adapt with, to not be limited to one methodology. Try to think about it. Also, maybe give it a thinking, what can be new domains that you can use to feed your brain, to go completely out of your area. A good way to start usually is old people. If you have any old person around you, just grab them and let them talk about something you would have never came across. Patients, if you're a doctor, are usually a good place to start. They always tell nice stories, your grandparents, your family, and see where it ends. Just try every few months or every year or two to just learn something that has nothing to do with what you did before. And I hope that you will notice the difference in the quality of your brain. And I hope also that you will remember me then. Okay, that was the second segment, the main segment. I hope it didn't take too long. A short break, then the final segment. See you soon. And we are back. Thank you very much for sticking with me after that long segment. I hope also I didn't bore you to death or you found what I say some bullshit. In this segment, I don't have really books or movies or whatever to recommend. I just have two things that are more important. There is a war in Yemen that left people very poor. They have nothing, practically, really nothing. They are suffering of poverty, no food, no water, nothing. And there is also a drought in Somalia. It didn't rain because of, I don't know if it's because of climate changes or what. It didn't rain, so they have no food, no water. And some people decided to help, and they are sending support using the Turkish Airlines planes. So I will leave the two links in the description below. If you can donate, that would be fantastic. Nothing goes through me. I don't know any of that. I just saw the codes and the links. But I think it cost us nothing. It's not even coffee and cake on a Sunday. 5 euros is nothing for us. But when you transfer the money to other currencies, it's probably a good amount that can help like some kids or a family for a week, or I don't know, some days at least. You might save a life, you never know. And you just forget about it, but for them it means a lot. It would be fantastic if you can spare a few bucks to donate. Thank you very much. That was all from me. I hope to see you next week in the next show. Until then, stay cool.